Donald Trump took the day off again. He was vacationing in Mar-a-Lago, but that didn't stop him from holding a press conference where he engaged yet again in the ultimate betrayal of Ukraine. He also made a number of statements implying that he was going to get rid of your Social Security. Let me tell you what went down. Here's the press conference where he's asked what his message would be to Ukrainians who feel that the Trump administration has betrayed them. Here's what he says.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president. And I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their sides. You have those magnificent golden domes that are shattered, will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. The whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago?
Could you believe that? I mean, I can, because Donald Trump, to me, is a traitor for what he did and what he continues to do. I mean, he sends Marco Rubio and his team to negotiate directly with Russia while cutting out Ukraine and Europe from the negotiations in Saudi Arabia earlier in the day. This follows, to me, those traitorous speeches that J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth gave in Europe, where they attacked European democracies. Russia was using the image of Marco Rubio and the American delegation in Saudi Arabia on all their propaganda channels to show how weak the United States. Look, let me show you here when Donald Trump is asked, how would you guard against Russia installing a puppet government in Ukraine? Here's what he says. Let's play it.
How would you counter the perception, because Russia's pushing for this, obviously, they don't really hold true elections, that would be a capitulation of some sort. How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent, and I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in. Don't go in. Don't go in. And he understood that. He understood it fully. But I'm only interested. I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III.
Again, did you hear what he said there? Again, he's just a total liar. He says that Zelensky has a 4% approval rating. That is 100% false. I mean, by the way, it is true that Zelensky's approval rating dropped from its highs, which were in the mid-80s when the war began, to somewhere in the high 50s, low 60s now. So he could have just told the facts. But no, Donald Trump says Zelensky's at 4%, and then Trump calls for elections in Ukraine, which again is another Russia talking point that Putin mentions all of the time. Here's the next big lie, as Justin Glaw explains, that Donald Trump is out there saying, which he's going to use to just totally dismantle Social Security and the social safety net that you paid into. Play this clip.
We have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old. So it's a very positive thing. How about over here? Yeah.
And again, could you choreograph this any better if you're Russia? You've got Donald Trump praising Russia, praising Putin, attacking Ukraine, attacking Zelensky. Then while he's in office right now, saying that we have a very corrupt country. I mean, just spitting on the United States of America and then using that as pretext to go after you and to install Elon Musk and others at Doge to get access to your tax records, your Social Security records, your medical records, your Medicaid records, to fire critical jobs across the government and to gut essential services in red states and blue states and purple states. Here, Donald Trump's asked, so what is the role of Elon Musk? Because in various declarations in the lawsuits that have been filed against you, Donald Trump, and Musk and Doge and other agencies, Elon Musk is now saying that he actually isn't the administrator of Doge. So what is he, Donald? Here, play this clip.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a Doge employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today?
Well, Elon Musk,
that role is there?
Yeah. Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things I just said. Just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But you know what? Ukraine's a bigger deal because people are dying by the thousands a week, thousands.
And you notice Donald Trump says, well, he's just a patriot. He may be an employee. We don't know if he's an employee. Go look at the other videos I did earlier today where you had Donald Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. You had Stephen Miller and others who were saying, oh, he's just a special advisor. He's not actually part of Doge. The reason they're trying to say that is they want to classify him as just a special advisor in the executive branch. So Donald Trump can declare executive privilege. He can assert the Presidential Records Act. So there will be zero transparency. So people won't be able to subpoena Elon Musk. You won't be able to do Freedom of Information Act requests to get the records because Trump's going to claim immunity, executive privilege, Presidential Records Act privileges to block any knowledge about what Elon Musk is actually doing while he screws you and picks your pocket and does the bait and switch. Here, Donald Trump is asked about the concentration camps the administration set up in Guantanamo Bay, where the administration has been caught lying that they are sending gang members there when it turns out they're actually sending migrants without criminal records there. Listen to what he says. Play this clip.
Immigration, sir. You said you would be sending the worst of the worst to Guantanamo Bay. What we're finding out is that there are a lot of low-risk migrants who don't have a criminal background who are also being sent. Are you thinking about this differently now?
No, they're going to be brought back to their countries. And with some persuasion, every one of those countries, everyone in the, as you know, every country is taking the people back. So some of them are going to be brought back to, many of them, any of them that are low risk, as you say, are going to be brought back to their countries. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So even when they get caught sending people who are not violent people to concentration camps, they just pivot and they go, oh, I don't know, we're just going to send them back to their country. By the way, the Trump administration is spending over $200 million on ads featuring Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary. And I think these ads are mostly in English, where she says, you go home right now. You hear me? So that's how they're spending the money while they're firing FAA workers, FBI agents, CIA agents, people who work at the CDC, people who work at nuclear facilities. Oh, we learned recently, for example, as NBC reported, that the Trump administration fired the researchers who were working on stopping the bird flu accidentally, and now they had to rehire them back. It's so utterly absurd. Donald Trump is asked about the big wave of federal workers who were fired. Here's what Donald Trump says.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, there was a big wave of probationary federal workers who were fired over the weekend. Some of these workers focused on nuclear weapon security were immediately rehired. Do you have any concerns about how these terminations have
No, not at all. I think we have to just do what we have to do. It's, you're going to, it's amazing what's been found right now. It's amazing. If we feel that in some cases they'll fire people and then they'll put some people back, not all of them, because a lot of people were let go. Don't forget, I got elected on the basis of making our government stronger and smaller, because we have millions of people that obviously they're paying millions of people that shouldn't be paid. And that has also to do with workers. Yeah, please.
And so when he's asked about the firing of these critical workers, like people who worked at nuclear plants and just people who work in the government in general, who are here doing essential functions every day, working hard, you heard what Trump says. I just think we got to do what we got to do. Trump is asked about how their administration is banning the Associated Press from being in the press room because the Associated Press refers to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of Mexico. Play this clip.
Take for you to reconsider the restrictions on the Associated Press. And secondly, some of your advisors are concerned with the Associated Press's style guide, using language and giving guidance to not use words like illegal immigrant or to use phrases like gender affirming care. And they're concerned about that being an encroaching on liberalism in the way in which the press writes about things. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I do think that some of the phrases that they want to use are ridiculous. And I think, frankly, they become obsolete, especially in the last 3 weeks, because many things have happened in the last 3 weeks. And I didn't know about that, but I would say that if they want to use certain phrases like that, and I guess some are okay, but many aren't. But the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it, just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only essentially, it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to be the Gulf of America. Now,
And here Donald Trump is asked if he has decided what the tariff rates will be on automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors to all these other nations. And Trump just kind of wings it again. 25%. April 1, 25%. Here, play this clip.
Have you decided specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
What about semiconductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plant or factory here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
And the level of instability he causes when he makes those types of statements, and whether he follows through or doesn't follow through, he's created a situation where the world just knows you don't trust America. In Canada, they're boycotting all things America, and there really are no more allies to the United States. I mean, there may be some countries just pretending at this point because they're trying to contain, the worst of the worst. But like, Trump has alienated everybody at this point. Here, Donald Trump is asked what his thoughts are about Doge and SpaceX employees, or SpaceX employees now working directly at the government agencies. And do you think that's a conflict of interest that Elon Musk has his own people who work at his companies working at the agencies that are supposed to oversee and regulate it? Play this clip.
Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption, you said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing about it. And if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. They've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock. And he's on and I'm on, and we talk about a lot of different things. And Any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that.
And did you hear what Trump said? He goes, oh, I'm just learning about it. Well, you may just want to start learning about the fact that there are protests now taking place across the United States. I know that corporate media wants to suppress the existence of these protests. Just take a look at this overhead, incredible footage of massive anti-Trump Musk protests that broke out in New York City. As Brian Tyler Cohen explains, MAGA is awakening a sleeping giant. You see all these photos right here as well, though, of Russian propaganda as they show all of these images of America capitulating to Russia. So utterly embarrassing to see that this is what the United States has become. But that's what happens when you have a psychopathic felon sexual assaulter as the United States president. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Please hit subscribe. We're on our way to 5 million subscribers. Let's try to get there together. Thank you for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.